Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. We are here with John Marani, and we're going to be talking about tarot things. So, John, first of all, why don't you tell everyone who are you to the Moira Press?
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Andy. I'm thrilled to be here. I am the director of admissions for the Moira Press. I am the tarot guy for the Moira Press, if you will. And I am somebody who appreciates good instruction and teaching very, very much. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here. Andy has been nice enough to allow me a big part of the Moira Press, and I'm thrilled. I couldn't be happier because I know this is a place where we have some really intelligent and stimulating students, and that's what I want in my classes. So that's why I'm here, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, you've actually earned your place at the Moira Press, not only in just showing up consistently and having good things to offer, but also your chart is really built to be an administrator. I mean, am I allowed to talk about your chart?
Please go right ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, you're a Scorpio, which is nice to have as for the tarot teacher because tarot teachers should be magical and mystical, if you ask me.
Mhm.
And then
Oh
you're
yeah,
a double cap, so you're Cap Moon and Cap Rising, which I think it speaks to the administrator role that you play here.
yeah, that's right. Admin stuff is boring for a lot of people, and in my other day-to-day job, I do a lot of admin, and I love it. So I'm definitely here, thrilled to be an admin at the school as well. I had forgotten that part.
Now, are you you mainly teach tarot currently because we don't have a lot of new students being admitted, really, although students do come and go. Do people can they meet with you anytime if they want, or how does that work? Is
Absolutely. Here's the way I look at it. My door is always open. I have been mentoring and teaching people for 35 years in various disciplines, astrology and tarot mainly, but in my day job, I also teach people how to teach. And so I understand very, very well when people come into a new school, like they may be a little bit confused about what we offer, and what not just what the school can do for them, but what they can contribute to the school. And so I feel like my door is always open. If anybody wants to meet with me at any time, let's schedule a Zoom and let's talk and let's see where you are, and maybe I can guide you in the right way, the right classes to pick up with us, or the right things for you, and that can also benefit us at the school too.
Nice. I love that. So you're saying you can kind of help people understand the programming we offer, what food for thought we offer, and then also
Right.
you can help them figure out how they can grow as leaders at this school. Because we have a kind of a leadership growth model here, is we're
Mhm.
trying to let everyone matriculate in who wants to, and then become as much of a leader as they want in this system.
Yeah, correct. And it's great that you said that because one of the things that leaders do is that they create more leaders, and that's something that you and I talked about very early on. I want people to come into the school, feel like they can leave us and lead, come back to us and get the information that they need to help them lead. And I am very much prepared to talk to anybody on that level, but also to guide them to the resources that we have that can help them get to where they want to go the most effectively.
Beautiful. So, okay, so do you act as the own director of admin to your tarot classes?
Well, so yes and no. So you have a large part in that because you do an amazing job promoting my classes because I don't always have a ton of time to do that. I try to get on at least once a day, especially for the tarot group, but also I do jump into the occasional astrology forum because I do like to see people and I love to interact with people. And I'm an astrologer also, and I feel like when I'm in your class, I always learn a new nugget. I was in for a couple of the remediation classes and they were just great. And I feel like even with all my experience, I feel like I learned a couple of new nuggets in there that were super helpful. Also, I've been watching a lot of the videos from you on the different signs, specifically Scorpio and Sag, and those were both amazing. So I kind of am the admin for my tarot classes in the sense that I'm the one who's driving the curriculum. I'm the one who's teaching the classes. You're handling the attendance side because they'll go to you.
Right.
But otherwise, other than that, if they have questions specifically about the curriculum or what we're going to do or where the classes are going, or if they're looking for something specific that we don't have on the curriculum right now, especially regarding tarot, I'm always happy to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, and just everyone, I hope you heard that. If you want to be, if you want to learn about the tarot classes, you can always come to me too, and I can guide you to get registered and, see, I can show you what the schedule is, and so either John or I can act as an admin in that
Yeah,
fashion.
absolutely. And the important thing is for you to ask the question. Don't sit there and feel like you don't know who to call or email, or please just contact one of us. We'll get you to the right place.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I find, with your current tarot curriculum that you're building, I mean, people can come one off, they can just show up whenever they want, but I do think that the students who are going regularly are benefiting from that regular contact. I mean, did you design the class to be a regular kind of thing, or what's the
Yeah.
design?
Absolutely. So I designed the classes to be a regular thing and starting from scratch. So one of the things I found, especially in my astrology studies, was that when I actually went to the Midwest School of Astrology, I found that I knew a lot of it already, but that there were certain gaps in my education that I missed. And so what I wanted to do with the tarot class was start off with the very, very basics. So we're all on the same sheet of music, because a lot of people, especially if they've done astrology, they've probably done a little bit of tarot in the past. They probably know some of the tarot symbolism. Certainly tarot and astrology work very, very well together. And later on in the classes, I'll be working on that. Advanced astrologers will really, really like that because it puts them both together rather well. But the idea is that if we all start kind of on the same sheet of music, then I can make sure there are no gaps, because what I really want is for you to, any student, to retain the material long term. So you, when you pick up those cards, you can feel comfortable, and that you're not missing pieces. And so I've found already with the students that I have that both of them have done tarot before. One of them for many, many years, but she's found that she's missed a lot of things. For two reasons. One, because when you read books, it's kind of scattershot, you never really know. And then the second part of it is I use the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, which is considered one of the best for teaching because it has a lot of the standard symbolism on it. I don't discourage people from using other decks eventually, but people who come to my class, I'm going to be using the Rider-Waite symbolism. And so if you have one of those decks, and there are, oh God, 15 or 20 different decks that would work the same also. If you have one of those, then you'll be fine. But I use those in class. I show you pictures. I show you the symbols so that when you read the cards, you start to feel a connection to them. And
Mm.
so, yeah, so I designed the classes for people who have never done tarot. And what, like I said, what I found was that people who are in my classes have done quite a bit of tarot and are still getting a lot out of it. So I'm thrilled.
Mm. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for committing to something. And nowadays people are flooded with content. You can get on your phone, you can watch YouTube. You literally can watch or do anything you want nowadays. And though committing to a series with one teacher or one group of students, there's something about that that says, I'm going to learn from start to finish this topic. Now, you're recording the classes, so if people want to start now, they can actually get the recordings from the other classes. Or if they take the series but they have to miss a week or two, they can get the recording, correct?
Absolutely. We've done two so far. I have a third one coming up this week. And any class that I do, I'm going to tape. So we have the recordings available. As long as you paid for the class, folks, you'll get the recording. I feel like everybody, and that includes me, Andy knows, I've had things come up in my life where it's like, well, I can't do it this week. And so I feel like that's an important part of it. And eventually I'm holding on to the class recordings for now, but eventually I think they'll go up on the Moira Press site
Hmm.
for you to buy. We haven't gotten that far administratively yet, but I'm sure that's kind of the way I'm hoping it'll go eventually, so people can just go and buy.
Yeah, that is the plan. I think we just have to get the recordings over to Shane, the computer producer, and he'll get them up on the site. Okay, how long have you been reading tarot?
Well, I just passed my 35th anniversary reading tarot a couple of weeks ago. I actually started when I was 17 years old. I was out of high school and I didn't realize how amazing it was going to be. When I started, I thought, oh, it'd be cool to know the future in that kind of Scorpio kind of mystery kind of way. Let's pull a few onion layers off. And what I'm realizing is the depth of knowledge that you can get from tarot, and not only in the sense of reading for someone else and seeing what their potential futures are going to be, but also reading for yourself and the self-development that can come from that. So I often find times in life where something happens to me, good, bad, or indifferent, and I'll just pull one card and ask, what am I supposed to learn from this? Similar to the way you journal, I will occasionally pull a card and really, really think about it. Like, okay, what is it trying to say? And the tarot is multi-layered in the sense that there are a ton of different meanings for each card. So I got to be honest, sometimes I'll pull a card for myself and I don't know right away exactly what it means. But I'll keep it in my head, and then eventually it'll be like, oh, okay, that's what it meant. Because it's easy when you start learning the cards. If you pull a card and you don't think you like it, because some, like the Tower or the Three of Swords, some of them look very, very foreboding, and they're supposed to, because they show you things that aren't particularly pleasant. But eventually, what'll happen is you'll have more of a Zen attitude toward it. You'll say, okay, what am I really supposed to learn? And not, oh, no, that's terrible, so that can't be right. A lot of us get into that when we first start reading cards. We're like, oh, this couldn't be bad. This has got to be good somehow. And the thing is, with the tarot, it's very even-handed, folks. One of the challenges that I have had in my career is occasionally I have clients who say to me, John, I only want to hear the good stuff. Like, the tarot doesn't work that way. It would be like having an astrology chart where you had everything perfect, where everything was awesome and you had every advantage. Like, the tarot doesn't work that way. The tarot is going to show you what you're supposed to see and not what you want to see. And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with when they first start with the cards, is they feel like this should be a positive thing. And honestly, it should be a positive thing. It really ought to be. But it's positive in the sense that it empowers you. People ask me often, do you tell people bad news? And I say, yes, absolutely. If I see something that is a potential, again, because the cards are a snapshot in time, right? It's a potential problem. It's a potential bad future. So we don't necessarily want people to manifest that, obviously. But my job is to give people a warning and say, hey, this is a possibility. If you don't like the possibility, then do some things in your life to change it. So my job is empowerment through the cards. That's what I want. And that's one of the reasons why I love the attitude of the school, where we're creating leaders. I don't want people who are going to be dependent on me. I want people who are going to take the cards, share that knowledge with other people, and use it for themselves and make themselves better able to lead their own lives. That's what I want.
Yeah, so it's interesting that maybe the cards aren't predicting a bad future, but they're saying a hard philosophical truth on the future. It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
the Ten of Swords come up and it said like sometimes in the future a hard thing happens. And though when that happens, like a good tarot reader would have some great philosophies at turning around hard things. Like, oh, here comes a hard card, and the way we turn that kind of thing around is XYZ. I mean, do you do
Mhm.
some of that? Or
I do, and what will often happen is when I pull a card like that, it often will bring up someone's fears, like what they're very much afraid of, or they'll kind of know intuitively what's going to happen. Because what a lot of people don't know is that I often, in a tarot reading, give people permission to do or feel certain things, and I'm going to explain that. So someone has an intuitive thought or feeling that something's going to happen, and I tell them what I see and it confirms what they think. They think, okay, I thought that was going to happen. So, for example, if we're talking about the Ten of Swords, let's say the Ten of Swords can be the end of something, right? But it can be an ugly end of something. It can be, the end of a long-standing friendship where somebody storms out of a room, and you don't talk to that person for a long time, and it's just kind of ugly. The idea with that card, if it comes up, one of the benefits to that card might be that relationship was toxic and it's supposed to be over. And even though it's not a positive thing, the positive may be that the relationship's over itself.
Mhm.
And so what I try to do with folks is I try to help them understand that they have the choice of how they react to events that happen to them. And a lot of times people think that it's just a knee-jerk emotional, I mean, moon-centered, like, hey, this is my instinctive reaction to something. But if I'm able to give people a warning of some kind, like, hey, this is a possible thing that could happen, and you need to be ready to react to it. What are your alternatives going to be? Then usually, again, I can't say all the time, but I feel like that information empowers them to make better choices in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I do find you to be a really empowering person, and that's why, the fact that you're so real about the cards. I mean, I know that you will give empowering readings no matter what cards come up because you're an empowering person. I mean, so, but I do think, earlier today in the Course in Miracles, we were talking about toxic positivity, and I think,
Mhm.
what you are not is a toxically positive reader, which would be like, oh, nothing bad ever happens ever, which is just a denial of reality. And I think,
Mhm.
and a reader who's not looking into reality is not helping anyone. We were saying like maybe we could end things with a positive, more a positive note. Like, do you try to end a reading with a positive note, or?
I try to end the reading with the idea that no matter what is going to happen, the client will be able to overcome it. Like, you can handle it. It might not be easy, but you are capable of handling it, because people do worry. They worry about things happening, and we all do it. But if you have that knowledge beforehand that, hey, maybe this bad thing's going to happen, but if it does, I'm empowering you to help you handle it. Even knowing that it could happen, you're already considering the possibilities of what you could do to make the situation better for yourself. So really, for example, when you do astrological remediation, you're telling people specifically like, hey, you got a Mars thing, we're going to work with it. We're going to here are the specific things we want to work with. In tarot, when we see an outcome, one of the things we can say to people is, here's the knowledge that I'm empowering you with. And sometimes I do suggest alternatives, like I'll pull extra cards and say, okay, if this were to happen, here are some of the things that you can do to work with it. But a big part of it is the emotional, like, hey, you're going to be fine. You're going to have to get through this potentially difficult time, but now you know it's a possibility, so now you can prepare for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Ptolemy in the Tetrabiblos said that the reason to look in the future is to prepare today as if something bad was happening tomorrow. But the reason is to prepare yourself to handle that thing amazingly. Like for example, let's say you said, "Well, I think I might get edema, in 3 months because my chart suggests swollen feet." Well, you could start studying edema now, and then you say, oh, when people get edema, the best things to do are wear compression socks and go see your doctor. And then you start planning where if this happened tomorrow, I would handle it with X, Y, and Z. And so you
Yeah.
basically see the future to prepare for it so that you can handle it really gracefully if that were to happen. And that kind of sounds similar.
Yes, and so I have a couple of examples. So and one thing I do want to say here is that I do a lot of what I call tales from the table in my class. So when a card comes up, I'll talk about things that have happened in a reading, but I will never ever mention a person by name. So you will never know who any of my clients are. So if any of you are my clients, just so you know, I'm not sharing anything personal with your name attached to it.
I've never
But
heard you break confidentiality ever, and we've been friends
no.
for a long time. So yeah, yeah.
No. I would never do that. To me, that's I would never do that. But I wanted to say that because I'm going to share some examples, and I didn't want people to think, oh, who could it be? Because I'm not going to say.
Mm.
So I have one client who came in and he was complaining of headaches. Now, with the tarot, one of the things that I tell people is that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer. They ask me about a lot of different things in their lives, but I remind them that I am only a tarot reader. I know what my limits are. So I'm very careful with what I say to clients. As you are when you do astrological remediation, you say some of the same kinds of things because that's how we set the limits. Well, I had a client come in and he had been having headaches for the past couple of weeks before I saw him, and they were getting a little better. So he really asked me, what should I do? Like, well, what's my course of action? And the card I pulled was the Fool. Now, the Fool is a really interesting card for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's a major arcana, so it means that this was bigger than just stress headaches, right? It meant it was something bigger than that. But also the Fool on the Rider-Waite tarot deck, the Fool is walking off a cliff. And so in some cases, the Fool represents risk, a risky behavior. And so what I said to him was, have you seen a doctor? And he said, no. And I said, I think you need to go see a doctor as soon as you can, just to make sure that everything's fine. He had a brain tumor. And it's removed and he's good. They were able to remove it. And
But you helped him get there.
Yeah, I helped him see that this was a risk. I didn't see it was a brain tumor. I didn't make any diagnosis. I don't do that. But I said, here's a risk. You need to go get it checked. And thankfully for him, he did. And so he had the tumor out, I think, about 2 years ago. And he was very, very worried because he has a young family. And I was really worried for him. But he's fine. So at least he was able to have that happen. And again, I only take credit for giving him the nudge to go to the doctor. That's it. I've had other clients sometimes who are in jobs that are contract. They're not permanent jobs, but they're contract jobs. And they'll say to me, hey, John, in 6 months, this contract is up. I don't know if the contract's going to be renewed. I don't know if I'm going to be renewed. What should I do? And so I'll pull some cards. And if I see some things financially that I don't like, I'll say to them, hey, look, you got 6 months. What are your financial resources? Have you been to a financial planner? You know, if you need a loan, can you get a loan now? Like, how can you kind of restructure? You know, I will often recommend that people see various professionals, financial, medical, legal, etc. But I will say, based on what I see, here are some of the possibilities. And so, yes, the tarot will often give you a nudge in a particular direction so that you can take action. And I want to be clear, it's not just in negative things too. I had a client who was really struggling at a job, and I pulled cards for her future, and I saw a promotion. And about 2 months later, she got promoted. But she was in the mindset of that possibility beforehand. She kind of knew. She said, well, he said this could happen, so maybe. And it actually did. And she gave me one of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten. She said, remind me never, ever to doubt you again. And I thought, that's wonderful. I am not perfect by any means. But I was able to kind of give her some solace in that moment, and she did get a nice promotion, so that worked.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's kind of an archaic and old idea that the tarot reader or astrologer is a future seer. It's like we're just informing, we're on your path in now and into the future, kind of as a consultant to kind of inform the journey. It's like you reading her cards in that moment and it coming true is part of her journey. If you would have read the cards and they would have been wrong, that would have been part of her journey too. Like, I just don't think that the
Yeah.
tarot reader's job is to be right about the future all the time. I think their job is to be a consultant and to try and to pull the cards and see what comes out, and that is the job, you know.
hmm
Um,
And
but
and and sometimes, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, I do think that the best tarot readers and astrologers are the best advice givers. You know how some people want you to just listen and be quiet and listen? And it's like the good astrologers I know is we're not, I mean, we're listeners, we listen, but then we actually activate and have something to say. We're advice givers, essentially.
No, exactly. And the thing is, so some people will occasionally call me cheap therapy. And I'm not a huge fan of that term for a couple reasons. One, because I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor or any of that. The second part of it is that it takes away to me from the work that, I mean, I have a therapist, I've had a therapist in the past. Like, I feel like those people do some amazing work. Now, tarot does have a therapeutic effect. Like, it can make you feel better, it can lighten the load a little bit, and I'm all for that. But I feel like, as you said, I'm not there to listen. I am there to listen, but only to the extent of, let me make sure I understand what I can help you do, and then help push people forward. Now, there have been times when I've given people advice and they've chosen not to do anything. So I had one client I saw every 6 months for about 2 years, and she was really struggling with her love life, and all of her relationships kept going the same way. a Scorpio lady, actually,
Hmm.
and she was really frustrated by it. And every time she came to see me, she got more and more frustrated because she would say, John, like, what you seem to be getting the same cards every time. Like, why is that? And I had to say to her, because you are acting the same way in every relationship that comes along. Like, you're not changing. So the tarot is telling you the same thing, and you're choosing not to change. And I tell people, you are going to do what's best for you, and that's what I want. Like you said, my job isn't to be right. My job is just to give advice along the path. And so she got super frustrated with me, and I don't think I don't have her as a client anymore. She decided, and that was fine. Like, okay, that doesn't hurt my ego at all. As long as she's doing what she feels is right, to me, that's what counts.
Interesting. Well, and I want to circle back to why astrologers and tarot readers are not counselors also, which is that we actually are dealing with data. So the tarot cards are data, actually. Like you could say, oh, I'm just free forming it. You know, counselors, maybe they're also dealing with data, but maybe they're dealing with the DSM-4 or the DSM, I don't know. But I do know as an astrologer, when I get an inquiry, I actually have to look at the chart data to then respond to the inquiry. I don't just go willy-nilly think like responding like, "Oh, I think this." I'm like, "No, I'm like, let me look into the chart. Oh, okay, I see this and this." And that activates me to make a bunch of notes and then I go into the reading with a bunch of notes. And I think
Mhm.
I've watched you do tarot readings and you get the inquiry and then you start pulling data, which is okay, yeah, here comes the Ten of Swords. Okay, now my response, I'm like weaving that in with the inquiry and who's sitting here. Okay, and then I pull another card and like so it's not we're not just counselors sitting there listening. We not that counselors just sit there and listen, but I see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Consultants often use data or are more data driven, you know?
Yes. Yep, and that's a good way of putting it. I often would call myself an intuitive consultant or an intuitive advisor, especially if people come to me with something very specific that they've been thinking about. If they feel like they know something's going to go a certain way or they have concerns, I can help them confirm, like, yes, you are correct. And sometimes I can also help people emotionally to the extent that I can help people understand, like, yes, this is a very bad situation. So let's say someone comes to me and they're having a terrible work life, like terrible boss or whatever it happens to be. And if they come to me and I look at the cards and the cards show me that data, they show me the messy environment in the workplace, then I can say to them, you know what? Yeah, I see this. And here are some of your choices. And sometimes people will be very happy with that because they'll say, you're confirming what I saw. So I'm not crazy. It's like, no, based on what I've seen here, your assessment is absolutely correct. And so we often help people reach conclusions based on data that they already have, but I'm just giving them a little nudge in that direction.
Interesting. Well, and I always think about this, is the tarot reader right or wrong? Neither. The client Rorschachs the reading. You know, so like, you're gonna read the cards as you do, and then
Yep.
they're gonna have their response to it, and those two things nudge them forward into thinking about the situation a different way, and that's why it's useful. If we're
Yes.
stuck in a situation we can't get out of, we can't figure out what to do, well, often some weird other narrative comes in and it just changes the playing field, and that can be very
Mhm.
healthy in many cases.
It really can be. And one of the things that I often tell people is that even if you haven't been working with the cards very long, even just pulling one card and seeing what it says helps. A lot of times when people are beginners with the tarot, a lot of books will give out spreads that are very, very complicated. Um, and they don't need to be. One card, two cards, three cards, those all work very, very well to give you the information that you need. The challenge that a lot of beginning readers have, though, is that when they have the cards in their hand, they want to do the same reading on the same topic regularly, like all the time. Sometimes people get obsessed with it. And I'll use the love example. So if imagine if you had a deck of tarot cards sitting there and you just every day were like, she loves me not. She loves me, she loves me not. Like, eventually the universe is going to go, objection, asked and answered. And so a lot of times with the tarot, when you ask a question, you have to honor the answer. And you've got to try to put that into practice in your own life, or at least try to understand what it's telling you before you ask the question again. And that's one of the reasons why, for clients, I really will only read a client once a month. I feel like any more than that is too much, except if they have a very, very targeted question that has nothing to do with the reading I did for them last time, then okay, I might make an exception there. But generally speaking, no, it's once a month, because I don't want people addicted to me. I don't
Well,
want people like that.
and another reason, okay, it's like tarot is helping the person in vision formation. So in manifestation theory, you get your vision correct, and then you start working towards this vision, right? Well, if you keep doing the same question, this read on that question, you keep reforming the vision. Like, what is going on? What is going on? What is going on? So no manifesting happens, nothing happens. We just get this weird, like waffling vision. So
Yes.
I think what you're saying is let me form a vision with you through these cards. Now take that vision and Rorschach that for a while and be like, what do I think of that vision? No, I don't agree with it. Yes, I do agree with it. No, I don't agree with it. But don't keep reformatting the vision, because then we don't really know. Um, yeah, I see where that would be. I mean, do we read our chart on the same question over and over again? God, I've never done that. I've never been like, what does my chart say about love today? See, I feel like I would get the same data with the chart. I'd be like, well, that Jupiter transit that's coming up onto my Venus is still going to be good for love. Like I don't know that the
Yeah.
data would change if I asked the chart
It
to.
probably wouldn't. And depending on the speed of the planet, like if we're talking about a Saturn transit or a Pluto transit, that stuff's not necessarily changing quickly. And a lot of the things that do come out with one of those are going to take a long time to manifest potentially.
Wait a second. So I'm not confused, but I am kind of dumbfounded at how you can be such a good astrologer and also such a good tarot reader. I mean, do you think you're just interested in the occult arts, or why the both?
So I was growing up, one of the reasons why I got into astrology is that my I had a great aunt, I think I told you the story, who was a Scorpio. And she treated all of us Scorpios a little bit differently. And I couldn't figure out why. I had two cousins who were also Scorpios. And I didn't know until I was 11 or 12 that I was a Scorpio and what that actually meant. But she treated us differently in the sense that she was quite a bit harder on us than she was on the rest of my brothers and sisters and my cousins. She treated us differently, clearly. And I think it was from the perspective of, you're a Scorpio, you can handle it. I think that was what it was for. But as you know, Scorpio is a sign that kind of rules gangs in the underworld. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I felt growing up with my aunt. Like, are we in this gang? Like, what is this? And so, and so I really felt that that was amazing. And as I learned more and more about astrology, just the sun signs, just the super basics, then at that point, my mom went to a party and went to see a psychic at a party. And she had a whole page of stuff written about each of her kids. And so I said, Mom, I have to know what she said about me. And I was a senior in high school at the time. And she said, okay, well, she pulled two cards for you. She said, the first one is, she pulled the fool. You know, she said, she looked at my mom and she said, your son is lazy.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. But I mean, I knew that it was true. Like, I knew in a lot of ways I wasn't very motivated. So I was like, okay. And then apparently the woman pulled the wheel of fortune and said, your son can do whatever the hell he wants. Like, he has
Wow.
that ability. And so I was very, very interested in both for a very long time. And then once I started delving into tarot even more, I realized astrology fits with it so well. Like you'll when I do the later classes, I have a whole part on astrology and tarot, and especially there's a specialty spread that I call the 12 house spread. It's 12 piles in a circle, and it's an amazing spread, but it's something that I don't teach early on because it requires a lot of foundational material first. But those two disciplines work very, very well, and astrology always interested me so much that I really, really like both. So when I have my tarot brain on, it goes much more intuitive. But when I have my astrology brain on, it's what's in the chart, data, very much where you are. And how I'm able to do both, I really don't know. But I also enjoy both of them in the sense that to me, they're two different tools. So I had someone say to me, I'm having a problem with a coworker just today. And she's an astrologer also and a tarot reader. She's one of my students. Um, and she said, but I want to know what way do you think we should go? And I said, I think with this, we should go with tarot because I don't think we're going to see a lot of astrological change, based on what you want. I think it can be more targeted if we go with tarot. So what I tell people is, if you're looking for some immediate guidance, a nudge on what to do, tarot's probably better. If you want longer term cycles that are going to help your life overall, then astrology is probably better. That's kind of
That
how
was
I'm.
going to be one of my questions is when, because at Sticks and Stones, when you do readings there, people come in and you do both astrology and tarot. And it's like, the question there is, how do you decide which tool to use? But it sounds like it depends on the inquiry.
It totally depends on the inquiry and it depends on what the client is comfortable with. So I am in Northern Virginia, there are not many shops that have a full-time astrologer. So I'm very, very lucky. And because I'm one of the few people who are looking for an astrologer come looking for me. Now, what I do at the shop is I do 30-minute like mini readings. Someone will come in, give me a chart. I'll go over it with them. Just a lot of times it's just the basics, unless they have a specific astrological inquiry. And as Generation Z has started working and having money and things, they come into the shop and they're like, John, I got this Mars thing. I don't know what it is. I've looked it up. Can you explain it? And so sometimes it's basic education of like, hey, here's your Mars. Here's how to work with it. Here's what I think's going on. And then that's that give and take. And some people who have had tarot readings a lot have never worked with an astrologer before. And so they'll come in and they'll say, John, I've never had an astrology reading before. Let's do that. And then I have some that will occasionally do both.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like sometimes, like, as an astrologer, I get readings like or questions like, "Should I move to Brooklyn or should I move to Detroit?" And of course, I'm not an astrocartographer, but we could use the tool of astrocartography to answer that question. Because I might actually use a more consulting um, inquisitive approach to help them decide. I might say, well, which do you like better? What are the pros and cons of each? And so I don't, I'm not pulling a tarot card there. I'm pulling out questions and conversation, right? But I could easily pull a tarot card there and say, does this tarot card, what do the cards say? There's
Mhm.
sometimes there's times where I'm like, I see where a tarot reader would pull out a card here. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
there are questions that the chart does not answer, and so tarot could answer.
So let's go back to that question you just had. So if it's either, one city or another, okay? I get that question constantly. And one of the things that I'll do is I'll typically pull a card for each potential destination and see. So for example, let's say somebody says, I want to move to place A, and I pull the 10 of Pentacles. So the 10 of Pentacles is a very, very strong financial card. It's great for money. We call it the Wall Street card. Okay. It
Wow.
means you have money, you're saving money, you're going to work, everything's fine. It also has a castle in the card. So it can indicate the purchase of a home also. So one of the things I might say to a person is, if you go to this place, it looks like you might have the possibility to buy a house. Is that something you've considered? Right.
Oh, interesting.
And so that can kind of like, well, I didn't think of that. But now the other thing about the 10 of Pentacles is it has a man and a woman on the card who are facing away from each other. And so that can represent relationships at a distance. So it might be that a person is considering moving, but they would have to leave their emotional support behind. 10 of Pentacles is great for money, but emotionally or for romance, it's not particularly good. It often for romance will represent a relationship that's a relationship at a distance. And so depending on how the cards go pull out, then at that point I'll pull a second card for the other pile, and I can go deeper. In other words, I can pull more clarifying cards for each pile to go deeper and find out like, okay, what is the thing that attracts you most about X city? Because if you think it's going to be this, it might not be as great as you think. Because how about this? And they'll go, oh yeah, like I didn't even think of that.
I
So
love that
this
you're pulling random element to question the situation, and you're helping the person process by saying, "What about this? What about this?
Yep.
What about this?" And that's amazing. Like it's in gaming, that's when you roll the dice in D&D is like, what or do we hit the, it's like there's random elements in anything can be really healing and exciting and good. So I feel like tarot is kind of like the roll the dice of divination, and in a
Yeah, it
way.
is. It's very, very much that. And quite frankly, there are times when the choices that people have, when none of them are good. So occasionally, what I'll do, for example, is I often will have, because, and I'll be honest, 95% of my clients are women because a lot of men are just not open to the idea of someone being an intuitive advisor for them. And as a guy, I can kind of get that, so I don't, it's, that's not a complaint, it's just an observation. And so I've had women say to me, John, I have this relationship A, I have a relationship B, and I want to see which person I choose. Which person am I going to put my energy into? And so often there's a past with both people, a romantic past with both. So I might pull two cards and say, neither one, neither one of these people is really good for you. And then I'll pull a third pile and say, well, what if you said no to both? Like what is the result? So I will often add an extra layer of value for them, if you will, just to say, hey, consider the fact that you might just need to be alone at the moment. You might not need to make a choice between these two people. And sometimes it will come out as you don't need to choose today. Maybe one of these choices will be better in the future, but right now, probably not.
Yeah. Well, okay, wait. I have a question for you, but first I want to ask you, what do you call the Ten of Cups?
I call the Ten of Cups happy home.
Happy home. I think if I had to pick between Ten of Pentacles and Ten of Cups, I would choose Ten of Cups. But I'm a
And
super watery person. Like I'd rather
mhm.
have happy friendships than a lot of money.
Well, and that is something that I completely understand. And the Ten of Cups is actually a card that resonates with Pisces, so your Pisces moon. So that's perfect.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, when you're talking about the Ten of Pentacles in Wall Street, I was like, oh, interesting. And at first I thought like, oh, should I want that? And I'm like, no, I don't really want a lot of money. I want happy relationships.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And
but
that's and that's purely, yes, I understand that.
not that this is about me, and I didn't mean to like make this about me, but I just it just made me think of like how I feel like we're taught to want money, but like you could subversively just want to be happy, you know.
And I get plenty of that too. I get people who say to me, you know what, I'm retiring. My financial situation is fine. I just want to know where I'm going to be able to have some peace, you
Oh,
know, or I just want a place where I can do my hobbies and that I want in an environment where I don't have to worry about paying the rent, where it costs less or something. Like the inquiries that I get are as unique as the individual.
well, and so the other thing this made me think of was how, it's the tarot's client to also, or it's the tarot client's job to create an inquiry they actually want. Like, for example, like I'm in a happy relationship. Like, if I went to the tarot reader and said, what's going on with my relationship? Like, that's actually me messing with my future because I'm allowing random elements into the future of this beautiful thing. It's like I feel like the tarot client needs to be careful what they ask, but it's not like danger, danger, but it's just like don't make the tarot reader mess up your relationship. Because these
Right,
are random elements. It would be like me saying like I'm gonna roll the D20 and decide if I have a good relationship.
right,
Like,
right.
don't
Yeah.
do that if you're not open to it, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Let me roll a perception check for that last conversation I had with my boyfriend. Here we go, right? So it's really interesting that you say that. So I have an example for that I know you're gonna love. So I had a lady come in and she said, I'm not very happy in my relationship at all. And I feel like it's over. And she was married. Okay. So I pulled some cards and I said, okay. I said, this relationship doesn't look bad. Like it looks fine. I said, you want to tell me, like, is there a reason why you're unhappy? And I think it was just because it had gotten kind of boring. Like it wasn't very exciting. And so as I went through the reading, I kind of I basically saw that the relationship was solid and that there was no real reason for her to like let it go. And I said, if you want to end this relationship, that would be on you, and that's fine. Like if that's really what you want. I said, but are you putting any effort in? And she goes, no, not really. I kind of stopped. And I said, okay, well, if you put some more effort in, likely you'd get more out of it. And the cards kind of bared that out. The cards kind of were like, this isn't the end necessarily for this couple. And so she left. She came back about 6 months later, and everything with her and her husband was fine. I guess she decided to put some effort in, and you
Wow.
know,
See, that's great. And that's great advice is to put effort into your relationship. So, whatever cards you did pull, you gave some great advice. And I think the best thing intuitive advisors can do is be good advisors. I mean, we are using intuitive tools, but you can use intuitive tools and be like a kind of negative advisor, or you know what I mean? So,
mhm.
um,
Yeah, I'm not a gloom and doom tarot reader. I have a very big problem with people who are, because that's not empowerment. It's just getting people to manifest what they fear. And I, I don't want that. Not at all. I feel like if people come to me, I'm going to give them an honest answer, good, bad, or indifferent. And then, as you said, they're going to Rorschach that and decide what's best for them. And that's what I want. But I'm not going to be the kind of person who will say, yeah, this thing's over. Sorry.
mhm, yeah.
If it turns out it is a relationship that's ending, I can say, okay, well, it looks like that's happening. Let's look forward and see how you can handle it the best, if that's how it goes.
Beautiful. Well, this has been such an awesome conversation. I really am looking forward to our Sunday nights together where we get to basically be professors together. You're the tarot professor and I'm well, and you're also an astrology professor. You just happen to be running the tarot side of the school right now. And the reason you're the right tarot teacher for this school is that you're an advanced astrologer. So you can teach the advanced astrologers tarot and have a really good mind about both. And so I just really appreciate this high level conversation. We do in the last minute, I think we should let people know what's coming up for tarot class this week and in the what's your plan for the next several weeks.
So the plan, you can always look on Andy's Facebook because it's out there. But specifically, this past week we did the first five of the major arcana cards, and I'm not doing them all in order. I'm specifically breaking up the lessons into different pieces. And so this coming week, we're going to start talking about doing one card readings and what's involved with that. So we're going to start doing readings. I want people to do them. The more people we get in the class, Andy, the more I'm going to be able to do exercises with them in the sense of people can read for each other in different Zoom rooms, because there's a way you can do breakout rooms. And
Okay.
then I can go into different rooms and kind of hear what's going on. And
Okay.
as people get more advanced, that'll get more interesting. But one of the things I've found is that people with just a couple of lessons seem to do very, very well reading tarot. Like this is not a. I'm not saying you can become a master overnight. You certainly, I mean, it takes work, right? 10,000 hours, right,
Yeah.
to master something.
Yeah.
But the idea is that I want people to become, even if they're new, I want them to become more comfortable reading the cards,
Right.
having them in their hand. And if they can do that, then I feel like I've made a huge win. But we're going to be starting this coming week doing some very, very basic readings and talking about how to interpret them.
Nice. So people can jump into the tarot class anytime. I mean, we're look not it's not like we're looking for people to commit, but we do it is a commitment based style structure of
Yeah.
like join the group, learn with this group, keep learning, it's but people can join anytime, correct?
People can join anytime they want. Yes. And
Yeah.
because we're recording the classes, once people pay for the classes, they'll receive the information. They'll receive the recordings.
Okay.
And the students that I have in class right now, honestly, I don't have that many, but the ones that I have some great questions for me. Like I've already gotten some really amazing questions just in the past couple of weeks. So
Nice.
I'm super excited with where this is going. I got to be honest.
Okay, so let's try to double those numbers this week. And so anyone who's listening, if you know somebody who wants tarot classes, please share this video so they can meet John and see what he's up to. And yeah, and I think, John, I think we just have to let the right people, because the community at the Moira Press pretty much is starting to be aware that the classes are happening. And I know we have a pretty good tarot crew, but I think we're going to have to, or it would be nice if we expanded this out to all the people around who are advanced astrologers who also want to learn tarot. So we just got to get
Yes.
the word out.
Absolutely. And I think the more people hear about tarot, I think the more they're going to be interested in it. And it's a really great tool for advanced astrologers who just want a little something extra. Like you said, sometimes during an astrology consult, people have asked me to pull a card because they know that I do it. I don't typically, but if I'm asked, I certainly will. And
Yeah,
so I want people to feel comfortable. They're already comfortable with astrology. I want them to be comfortable with the tarot also.
beautiful. All right, well, I can't wait to see you next week. I think, yeah, I think next week we'll be on again, and
Yep, next week
yeah.
we're on again.
All right, and we'll see you at Wednesday for class. All right,
Yes,
bye,
I will
John.
be there. Bye.
Bye.